The Odyssey was made for $250 million, including a $125 million marketing budget that seemed like it was all about shoving IMAX down our throats. Now, I decided to take the road less traveled and see the Odyssey in a non-IMAX standard showing on opening weekend, and I will let you guys know right now that I was terrified. I thought that parts of the screen would be cut off and that the aspect ratio would be terrible, but boy, was I wrong. Stick around to the end of this video to see what I rate the Odyssey, and if you like movies, please drop a sub. Now, I had major expectations, of course, as everybody has, for this movie. I dodged all conversations about it with about a month leading up to it. I have not watched a single interview. I did not read a single tweet about it, and I really dug my heels in the sand that I was not going to pay a scalper $300 to go and see this in the IMAX 70mm. It's just not worth it. I'm going to wait a month and a half, and I will be making a follow-up video on how it looked in the 70mm and if I thought it was that big of a difference. Overall, though, there was not a single moment in this film that I thought I had skimped out, cheaped out, and gone to see a terrible version of this movie. It was so compelling from start to finish, and the camera quality really looked amazing even in the standard showing. Now, I know there are quality purists out there that will say, if you go and watch it in this, you're not seeing it the way that it was intended. Let me just tell you, folks, this is one of the greatest movies that I have ever seen. And I do not say that lightly. Now, does that mean that this movie is in my top 5 list, that it's immediately dethroned Citizen Kane and There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men and Glorious Bastards? No. That is absolutely not what happened. But when you watch something like this, it's undeniable that it is just one of the greatest pieces of art that has ever hit the canvas. Christopher Nolan was in his bag this entire time. I'm going to get into spoilers in about a minute and a half, but I just wanted to say one of my other huge things that I was really worried about was the casting choices. I didn't really understand if Matt Damon was going to be able to play Odysseus the same way that a leading man, sort of like Christian Bale or even Tom Hardy was up for the role. I just thought that they might have been a better casting. I was so wrong. Every single casting choice in this movie was phenomenal. Maybe besides Calypso, who was played by Charlize Theron. She did okay, but her performance was really just forgettable and uninspiring. I thought that Tom Holland was phenomenal. After I saw the movie, I went and looked through all the Twitter comments, and Twitter's been eating Tom Holland alive, saying that he's basically just getting overshadowed by all these other phenomenal actors. I thought he played his role to a T perfectly, and I mean, really just everybody at the top of their game. A 60-year-old almost Matt Damon coming out here and showing the actors how it's done, how you be a leading man, how you turn yourself into this legend, this mythic, person. It was just great. We're going to get into spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the movie, please feel free, click off, go and watch it. I do not think that this is one of those movies that you want to have spoiled. I know that a lot of people know the story of the Odyssey. They go, how can you spoil a story that's 1,000 years old? Okay, this is not a one-to-one replication, but yes, a lot of the things that you want to see hit on in terms of the Greek mythology is hit on in a great way in this film. So let's just talk about the opening scene. The first person that you see on screen is Travis Scott. Not a great start for me, I'll be honest with you guys. I was like, are we really showing Travis Scott with a clean-ass fade in the first scene, doing this whole chant? And now, I think a lot of people know the story of the Odyssey, but you don't actually know what it's about, and that's how I came into it as well. I guess that what they're chanting is like, Odysseus's song at the beginning. They're saying like, a trick, a joke, a beach, a pool, and they're like banging in between, and I really didn't understand it, but they do a great job of adding all the context you need in about the first 45 to 55 minutes. This is one of the best films, if you ever want to see a film that's broken up into 3 distinct acts, this one felt like it really was. And the TikTok generation is not going to like the first act of it. It is so much dialogue. Nothing is going on. It's very slow. And I started to even get worried. Oh my God, is this movie just going to suck until the last 20 minutes and that's going to make up for it? But I heed your warnings, and I will tell you now that it does not. It gradually increases to the point where after I left the 2-hour and 53-minute showing, I said that was the perfect amount of time. I don't think that they should have done any more or any less. I thought that it was a great setup. So we have Travis Scott banging on the table and, singing Odysseus' song. Obviously, Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, also did a phenomenal job. She is waiting for Odysseus to return, and we start to see a non-linear storyline began to be told. It's told by all these different people. You're showing different soldiers' background. Elliot Page's soldier had a very cool backstory where he ends up taking the pin away from Robert Pattinson and going and serving with Odysseus, and that actually comes into the back of the movie, and it says, that he goes and tells Anne Hathaway, I would have served with Odysseus, but they didn't let me go. They wanted me to stay home. And it's like, that's really not what happened. You got your place taken by this little boy. I don't know if it was his brother or not, but all of these suitors are sitting in the castle that Odysseus is out of, and they're having their feast every night. And they're waiting for Penelope to get a suitor. Now, they all know that Penelope is never going to get a new suitor. She loves Odysseus. She wants Odysseus to return home. And she believes that he will because nobody has identified him being dead yet. Whenever somebody comes to her and says, oh, he's dead, she asks them for a very specific pin so that they can say, oh, yeah, I saw him with this pin on. And that's Odysseus to confirm it. This is the pin that she gave him before he went on the voyage. Apologies for the pausing in the gameplay here. I was doing the Origins Easter egg and decided to start recording some gameplay, and I thought, what better than Call of Duty Zombies Black Ops 2 now that it's on PS5? This is on my PC, but I haven't really played it on my PC, so I got into the swing of things. It took me a while to get this gameplay, and I'm going to complete the Easter egg and hopefully post a little bit more high-round gameplay, so if you like that, that's the kind of stuff we're doing around here, by the way. So regardless, they're all waiting to take her hand in marriage, knowing that it won't happen, so they basically commandeer the entire castle. Matt Damon is away on an island being fed lotus flower by Calypso, played by Charlize Theron. And he's not able to remember any of the things about his life, if he had a wife, if he had a child. He knows nothing of anything that happened because she's feeding him this flower that's making him forget, and all of this was with, in her mind, good intentions to bring his body back to health after he lost his entire crew and they all died, and then bring his mind into it and say, hey, listen, everybody died, and kind of slowly transition him back to real life. But of course, she falls in love with him. So a lot of this story is being told through his recollection to Calypso because she decides enough is enough. His heart is not here. He wants to be home. So he's describing the things that they went through, and it's showing this amazing voyage. And that's where we get into Act 2. And Act 2 starts showing us all of the monsters and giants and gods and everything that they had to face along the way. The first one that you see is the Cyclops, and it was such a good way to get us into that mode of like, oh my God, this is like a monster movie. Like, this is not just like this epic, kind of like crazy voyage. This is also something supernatural, and that feels so cool when you've just had 45 minutes of dialogue, by the way, at the beginning in an American accent, American language, a dialogue that really feels like it should be British, but all of that falls to the wayside by the time you get to the Cyclops, and it was so perfect. All of the choices were so perfect. They fight the Cyclops, they lose men. Odysseus knows he's going to lead these men to death. He knows that some of them are going to die, but he's trying his absolute hardest to be super smart. They also show a flashback of them taking over Troy and going and, taking over the entire city. and opening up the floodgates. And Agamemnon, I think is his name, is the kind of like mythic figure that goes in there and takes everybody out. Played by Benny Safdie of all people. Very strange casting that worked really, really well. I mean, he's only in it for a little bit and you can barely see his face, but dude was dripping with aura when he came into Troy. That was one of the coolest scenes ever, when they hop out of the Trojan horse and they go to storm, the castle basically. And they're doing it so silently, causing diversions. Odysseus is so smart with the way that he does everything, and it just works out perfectly. And so then they get to another island where we get to see one of the greatest body horror scenes that's been put in a mainstream movie probably ever. All of the men are incredibly hungry. They decide that Odysseus is not their captain anymore. He's going to just go and hunt and try to get them food, and then he'll stay on this island. They go up to try to ask people, they see like a house with some smoke, if they have any food. And there is a lady up there, Circe, who is cooking a shit ton of this disgusting looking mystery meat. And she has them all start eating it, and they just get possessed to where they start eating it so fast. And now this is the point where if you have like an ASMR, like Twitch, where it like kills you to hear something like that, or you just get queasy at the sight of seeing something so, I don't know, like just gross, then you gotta plug your ears. I mean, it's just like a minute and a half of just slurping and sucking noises. It was vile. And as it's happening, they all start to turn into pigs. And she's like shoving more of the food down their mouths, and their face are contorting, and their bodies are turning into these pigs. And Odysseus comes up at the very, at the end of the transformation, and they're all pigs, and she's just feeding them, pig feed, and they're all running around, and they see Odysseus, and they're running at him, and they're trying to tell him, but they're just pigs. And he goes in there and starts talking to her one-on-one, and obviously sniffs out exactly what she did. And he finds out that, she has a crow in there that she loves, and so he takes control of that crow and tells her, you need to set my men back. And it's this whole great moment where she's like, you guys come in here, you rape and you steal and all this stuff. And he's like, hey, my men didn't do any of that. So turn my men back, or I'm going to kill this crow. I just loved the way that transition happened. And when she turns them back, she says, back to your disguises, back to your disguises. And they have this moment where the hoof breaks off into fingers and starts turning into a hand. Oh my God. And I think Himesh Patel, who's one of the lead actors in that scene, if not the lead actor in the scene where they're turning around, he has the most speaking lines. He said that he literally felt like that shit was happening to him. He's like, I really felt like I was there and it was happening, and it was terrifying. I felt like I couldn't stop it. Which just goes to show that this level of movie making magic that went into this film is something that will likely be studied in film schools for such a long time. I mean, there are shots of them bringing helicopters of camera equipment and crew up to the original birthplace of Zeus, this cave in Greece, where they shot the scene for the Cyclops. And they built the Cyclops. And then the VFX team put all the shit on top of that. That leads back to my George Lucas video that I will link at the end of this stream, of me saying that there's no place for AI in art. Even VFX is something that people should be making. That's what I mean when I'm talking about it, man. They built that shit. And guess what? If you can't build the fucking Cyclops, sorry, buddy, you can't do a movie about the Odyssey. You have to leave that for the big boys. But you know what you can do? You can make a movie like Obsession. You can make, a movie like The Backrooms, probably, with a big, that's help from a big studio. But Obsession was made for $800,000. Anyways, I digress. I thought that all of the gods and everything that they fought were so cool, but a huge standout for me, and I think everybody else, is when they go down and they talk to the dead in Hades world. It is bone-chilling. Elliot Page is a superstar of the biggest proportions. He is just, wow. Wow. That 5-minute little monologue that he gave while being like covered in dirt and this undead creature was so perfect and exactly what Odysseus wanted to hear. And he basically tells Odysseus, hey, listen, bro, everybody's gonna die. Well, he doesn't tell him everyone's gonna die. There's someone else that tells him everyone's gonna die, but they say, listen, you can try to mitigate it, but it's just gonna happen that way. Your whole crew's gonna die no matter what. You're gonna be the only one that makes it home, and you're gonna have to sacrifice yourself and go into exile, which I would assume exile would mean that, you know, he rides off into the sunset, never to be seen again, and likely killed once he leaves. I don't know if like, and that was another question. I didn't really go into the whole Odyssey lore too much after I left, but I was wondering, does him being exiled mean that he goes off and dies, or does it mean that he just goes off and has to leave this place to go somewhere else? But regardless, somebody tells him down there that when he returned back to his home as the king that he was, he needed to return in disguise and not go back as himself, because so many people are going to hate him. They're going to want to kill him. They're going to want to test him. And so Odysseus goes back in the smartest way in the third act. And it was perfect. I literally looked at my phone and I thought, oh, we've been in here for about 2 hours. The third act is going to start any second now. That means that he'll probably be home in the next 5 minutes. And sure enough, he was back in Etica? I think it is Etica. He was back where his home, and pretending to be a beggar. And he goes and talks to his son, Tom Holland, who's been looking for him this entire time, went on a small voyage of his own, and came back. Also seeing John Bernthal in the process. I thought that was a really good little cameo for him to make. I thought he was only in it for about 10 minutes of speaking roles, so it was a little bit more than a cameo, but not a full-on, you know, let me tell you something, John Bernthal. It felt good. It took me completely out of it being all of these hotshot actors and turned it into just me watching the best adaptation of the Odyssey that we will likely ever get. And so in the third act, he returns home. He devises this plan. He goes to the people that he can trust, his most loyal servant, who I loved as well, Epheus, I believe it was. He was also great. I can't remember this actor's name. I know his last name's so hard for me to pronounce, but he's great in everything I've ever seen him in. He's a comedic actor, but I loved to see him in this caliber of a movie. It was so freaking cool. And obviously Tom Holland's on his side, and he tells Tom Holland, oh, I'm a beggar now, but I was in the war at Troy. I'm a veteran of the War of Troy with your father, and I was there, and I know him, and this is the reason why I know him. And so he's kind of got credentials. And then Tom Holland sees him going back up to the castle at one point when they're about to sort of like devise this plan after Odysseus finally speaks to Penelope. And he sees his old hunting dog that he had gotten like the same year that he went on the voyage, and he didn't take the dog with him. And the dog was like 20 years old, just waiting, staying alive, waiting for Odysseus to return. And as soon as he returns, he sees the dog sees him, acknowledges that it's him, and then immediately starts to die. And he looks at Tom Holland and says, you should bury this dog up on that hill. And he goes like, where you two met? And it was at that moment that he realized, oh my God, this is my father, the man that I've been looking for, the man that I've been waiting to come home, the man that I've never met. And I started tearing up in the theater. It is so difficult to get me to tear up in the theater. And the same thing with my girlfriend. She started tearing up as well. It was such a beautiful moment. And he just went, no, I'm a beggar. And once we're done with this, then you will get to meet your father and all this stuff. And so they bring him in. They have Penelope. Basically, Odysseus talks to Penelope and says, you need to find a suitor because Odysseus is coming back. So he basically gets her to try to find a suitor. And she gets all of the people into one room. They all take their weapons, lock them upstairs, and then lock them in, and it's basically just turned into a slaughterhouse for Odysseus. And the trial that all of the suitors have to do to try to get Penelope's hand in marriage is to string back his bow. And that's like his main weapon. It's a bow that only he can pull back on, and that's the only way that she is going to marry people. And they all know that it's not possible. After the first 5 guys try, it gets over to Robert Pattinson, and he's like, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. Just pick which one of us is the best. And there he is. You know that we can't string this bow. It's impossible. Only Odysseus could do it, and he's not coming back. And then Odysseus, as the beggar, comes up and has the best moment in the entire film for me, where he, oh my God, the sound design of it too. He strums the bow one time. This is his thing, to let the animal have a chance to get away. It's like an honorable fight for him. And so he strings the bow one time, and it lines up with the score of the movie. And everybody just, oh my God, there's no way this is Odysseus. Robert Pattinson immediately knows that it's him. He's like, holy shit, this is Odysseus. I am fucked. He's about to kill me. Starts trying to run for the doors, can't get away. Odysseus straightens the bow, hits it through all the 12 axes, and completes the challenge that Penelope gave him. Now, that obviously confirmed to Penelope that it was Odysseus, because he was the only one that could pull it, but it wasn't like a 100% thing until he comes and gives her back the pin, because why would he not have the pin that she gave her? So she goes into her room, closes the door, and he starts killing everybody with arrows. Now, Robert Pattinson has the bright idea to send somebody up to the weapons closet to try to get a bunch of weapons down there so that they can kill Odysseus. Meanwhile, Odysseus is just murking everybody. And I thought that it was great the way that they didn't Steven Seagalify this movie, where it's like one after another, everybody's going one at a time to try to attack Odysseus. It really looked like they were just trying to get space to get in to try to get him. It didn't look like they was, hamstrung in to the point where you're just like, all right, dude, can you all just rush him and kill him at this point? It looked really, really believable. Now, meanwhile, Tom Holland sees that someone has gone to the weapons closet. He goes up, fights him, finally kills him after like a 7 or 8 minute fight scene of like really, really, I mean, just a like, I don't know what the word is, a very like rigid back and forth. It was super stressful to watch. I was like, oh my God, I really don't know if Tom Holland is about to die and Odysseus is gonna live, or if Odysseus is gonna die and Tom Holland's gonna live. I have literally no idea. And of course, Tom Holland does end up killing the last guy. They get a bunch of weapons down. Robert Pattinson, who's the main villain, is such a pussy. He doesn't even go for the weapons. He just starts screaming, get the spears! Get the daggers! Like, he's just such a little bitch. It's so freaking funny. That was one of the greatest parts of that for me. And I was so glad that I wasn't in a theater full of a bunch of jackasses. I saw a couple of clips from these 70mm Odyssey screenings. You people, I swear to God, you are fucking performative ass idiots, bro. I'm like, the scene where he strums the bow, everybody's like standing up and clapping. Like, oh shit! He strummed the bow! Fuck! Dude, they're literally like, clapping like fucking seals. It's ridiculous, bro. This is like, I understand that audience reaction is a thing, but this is not fucking Star Wars, where like, Darth Vader comes out of the fucking lava, and it's like, oh my God, he's back. No fucking way, dude. Like, this is a standalone movie. It was so cringy, and I'm so glad that my theater had like 20 people in it max, and all of the audience reaction was like, oh shit. Oh my God. Whoa. Like, it was like stuff like that wasn't distracting, and it wasn't too common. God, you guys are so freaking performative. I'm still gonna go see it in the 70mm, but I'm gonna have so many gripes. I already know it without even trying to go and see it. Regardless, at the end, Odysseus kills everybody who does not take a knee and surrender to him. The rest of the people who take a knee and surrender to him are, his new army. And then he goes and gives Penelope back the symbol, shows her that it's him, and everything is all hunky-dory. Tom Holland becomes king. They go into exile together, Odysseus and Penelope. Blobbity-blobbity-blue. Everybody's all happily ever after. Now, I did think that the second act was phenomenal and one of the best, just movie-making experiences that I've had in the second act. The third act is the best payoff of any film that I think I have ever seen. because you have 45 minutes of learning who these people are, their stories, why they did what they did, the complexities of their character. Then in Act 2, seeing the actual fight sequences and the voyage and the monsters and all, you know, the great stuff about it. Act 3 turning into this stealth mission of coming back in the most grandiose way possible, so it's undeniable that this throne is mine. Dude, I got full body chills for so much of the third act. By the time it was over, I didn't even want to open my mouth and speak. I just wanted to sit there and let it all just soak into my brain. The amount of just payoff cocaine that snorted up my nose immediately. And that's why this is one of the greatest movies that I've ever seen in theaters. This is one of the greatest movies that I've ever seen. I think that if you're worried about not seeing it in IMAX, don't. It's propaganda, bro. I'm sure that it looks a little crispier. I'm sure that the screen is much bigger. But I saw it in a standard recliner seating. It was Stadium 8 at my local theater, which was huge, by the way. We're talking 10 rows of, I think, like 25 seats each. It's the biggest theater that they have that's not an IMAX theater at my theater. And so the screen was plenty big enough. The aspect ratio seemed like it made sense. The casting choices made sense. The outfits made sense. The modern language made sense. It was all perfect, but you just have to get through the initial skepticism. And the initial 40 minutes of this film, 45 minutes of this film is a lot of buildup, but it's not boring. It's just long, and it's just a lot of information that you have to take in, and that's really what I thought about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate the Odyssey on a 1 to 5 star rating. We are going over to the Letterboxd rating system. I think 1 to 10 for movies really bottlenecks a lot of movies in like the 7 to 8 range. So from now on, we're doing 1 to 5 stars on this channel. I would give the Odyssey 4.5 stars out of 10 for me personally. Now, the only reason why I'm not going to give out the first 5 star that I do on this new ranking system is because I just don't think that for me, this is one of my 5-star movies. Do I want to go and see it again? Absolutely. Do I think that it was incredible? Did I feel things that I haven't felt seeing a movie in such a long time? Absolutely. But it does not take over my top 5. And my top 5, I would say, are all 5 stars or close to it. And so that's kind of my thought process with it. Maybe I'd say a 4.6, and that's where I'll keep it from that point on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you want me to see next. I'm going to try to keep this channel a little more focused on newer movies and newer news about movies. We have another video that's going to be coming out soon that is about Netflix's acquisition of Ben Affleck's AI company. They have spent $500 million on this AI startup from Ben Affleck himself to start integrating into post-production and editing processes and things of that nature on over 300 of their shows, and I am absolutely appalled at it. So that will be next up. I appreciate you guys for watching. That's about it. Bye-bye.